Welcome in to Steelers Talk Yinzers. My name is Jack Sperry, your host, and today we as a community here at Steelers Talk, we're going to be talking about offensive coordinator Matt Canada and what he's going to be bringing to the table for the black and gold heading into the 2023 season. I'm going to be breaking down his 2022 stats for the offense last year and then the supposed improvements that he could be making here heading into the 2023 season. But first, be honest with me now. What's your confidence level in Matt Canada? Put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for me down in the comments section. I know there's going to be some pretty low numbers here, but over the course of the video, maybe that number will change. All right, so first let's go over the numbers from 2022. Let's break down the facts of the matter. Okay, so overall in 2022, this is where the Steelers ranked in just about most of the major offensive categories. 26th in points at 308, 27th in yards per play at 4.9, 19th in drive success rate, which is a Sabre metric, number 7 in third down efficiency, and then number 20. They were 23rd in red zone efficiency at 51.9. So that's not great, but then we need to put this in the context a little bit that the offense did get better over the course of the second half of the year. This is when the Steelers made their playoff push last year, and they were number 19 in points at 20.8, 16th in yards per game, tied for 23rd in yards per play, and then number 1 in third down efficiency and 16th in red zone efficiency. Also, all these numbers were better in the second half of the season. The first half of last year was one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in the National Football League as an NFL analyst. It was that bad. There's no modern elements to this offense whatsoever, and that was definitely something that held this offense down in 2022. And even when things got better in the second half of the season, it's still not great. You like to see the number 1 in the third down efficiency category, but in all these other ones, they're still below average. So how can the Steelers make those improvements? Coming up here, I'm going to list the things that I hated about Canada's 2022 offense that he needs to fix if the Steelers are going to be successful on the offensive side of the ball here in 2023. But first, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Will the Steelers have a top 15 offense for this season? Let me know by giving me a yes or a no. Will they be above average, top 15 in the National Football League here in 2023? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So here's what's going to happen. YouTube is about to throw you an ad break. Take advantage of that time right now by answering yes or no down in the comments. All right, so the first thing that I hated about Matt Canada's offense last year is that he always ran into stacked boxes. So if you don't know what a stacked box means, that means you have a numbers disadvantage in the box. So the defense has more people towards or around the line of scrimmage than the offense has blockers. And when it came to those situations and running the football, Matt Canada ran into those disadvantaged situations at a top 5 rate. 191 times, the Steelers ran it into a defense with a numbers disadvantage, which was the 5th highest in the National Football League last season. That is something that you just don't really want to see happen, because when you're running the football, you want to have a numbers advantage or at least be even in the box so there's not a free defender to go out and attack your running back. And I think given this circumstance, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris actually had a pretty good season last year. If you're taking into account that 191 times last year, they were running at a disadvantage in terms of the numbers game, and that's just absolutely just despicable by Matt Canada. There's no way that should be happening. Now, a big reason why this happened, in my opinion, is because Kenny Pickett did not have the freedom at the line of scrimmage to call audibles, to get out of the play when they were in disadvantaged situations like that. Kenny Pickett just simply got the play and he had to run it. He had no freedom whatsoever to change the play, and that's just not going to work, right? The best offenses in the National Football League. Look at Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. They have been doing it forever. Peyton Manning, when he was in the league, he was the best at it. He could diagnose a defense and he could change the play to completely dissect them. The best offenses ever do something like that, where they have a quarterback that has freedom at the line of scrimmage to change plays, to call audibles, to do different things, to move wide receivers around. And last year, Matt Canada gave the rookie quarterback none of that freedom. And that really hampered what the Steelers could do, because if the defense came out in an advantageous look, Kenny Pickett couldn't do anything about it. He couldn't make it a better situation for the offense. And that's absolutely something that just can't be tolerated this year. And Kenny Pickett absolutely needs to have more control at the line of scrimmage this year if the Steelers are going to be successful. Now, another thing that I hated about Matt Canada's offense is that there wasn't enough variability. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that when they were in certain formations, they were running a certain play. And defenses knew it. There were multiple times last year where opposing players said, if they were in this formation, we knew they were running this sort of play, whether it be inside zone, outside zone, whatever it may have been. If they were in a certain formation, they were running a play because every time they were in that formation on film, they ran that play. Now, the best coordinators and play callers in the National Football League, Kyle Shanahan, Josh McDaniels, as a coordinator I'm talking about here, the guys that do this really, really well, they run multiple plays out of all of their formations, so defenses have no idea what's coming. They keep them on their toes. They keep them honest. And Matt Canada just simply did not do that last year enough to keep defenses honest, and we saw that reflected in the numbers that I just showed you earlier in the show. And then finally, the last thing that I hated about the offense last year is that there was way too many stop routes. Now, what do I mean by stop routes? Those are like comebacks, curls, routes where the wide receiver is stopped when they are catching the football, right? Modern offenses, many people know this, every modern offense incorporates deep crossing routes where the receivers are catching the ball in stride and in the middle of the field to get yards after the catch, right? Because it's not just enough to get a completion. You want yards after the catch, but if you're completely turning your back to the defense as a wide receiver and you're catching it, the ability to get extra yardage after the catch goes down dramatically. And Matt Canada's offense probably led the National Football League last year in these types of routes. I mean, it was what he was used to. He was used to out routes going out towards the sideline. They ran, I can't even count how many times they ran comeback routes to the left side of the field last year. It was a joke, okay? They need more deep crossing routes this year if they want to be successful because, yards after the catch last year, I think the Steelers were like dead last or close to last year. That can't happen again, especially when you got guys like Deontay Johnson and Calvin Austin III that are fantastic after the catch. So now the good news here, okay? So we've gone over kind of the bad news and the things that I didn't like. But the good news coming out of Steelers minicamp and OTAs right now is that players are loving this offense. Okay, apparently it's a brand new offense that Matt Canada has brought to the table. Kenny Pickett has all this freedom at the line of scrimmage, which is good. And then also apparently they have more crossing routes this year, incorporating some of more of these modern elements into their offense. So everything that I'm saying here that needed to be improved, at least according to the reports coming out of camp, is that those things are actually being worked on, which is great news to hear heading into Kenny Pickett's second year. And let me tell you, man, this is going to be a big year for Kenny Pickett. Now, Matt Canada spoke to the media today at mandatory minicamp, and this is what he had to say about the offensive identity of his offense. I think our identity was pretty clear the last 9 games. We ran the ball really well. We were physical. You saw who we drafted, who we acquired. I don't think there's any question about what our identity is going to be. I think we want to run the football. We want to be physical. We want to be a good team that throws the ball down the field and take advantage of what the defense gives us. And so I think our identity has been well known and will stay at where we're at. Now, I absolutely agree with what Matt Canada is saying here, and I think it's good what he is saying there. I think that this offense will make improvements this year. I'm going into this year cautiously optimistic about what Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett and the rest of the crew are going to be able to do. It seems like that they're incorporating the elements that they needed to incorporate, and I'm going into this year with an open mind about offensive coordinator Matt Canada. So coming up here, I'm going to be taking your questions on the Steelers offensive coordinator, but first, is it playoffs or bust for Matt Canada this season? Would you bring him back if they had, say, another 9-8 season and missed the playoffs? Type 1 for yes or type 0 for no. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. All right, so now let's get into the discussion portion of this here, starting with Anthony Fuller, King Yinzer. If Kenny takes a year 2 leap, does Canada keep his job? 100% yes. I think it kind of depends on the type of leap that Kenny takes. Like if he's like top 20 in the league, then, maybe he doesn't keep his job. But if he really takes a leap and goes into like top 15, top 10 category where he's a bona fide franchise quarterback, absolutely. Matt Canada's keeping his job. He's going to be sticking around. Then we got Zion Peterson here saying, do you think Canada and his terrible red zone offense can be saved with better O-line and a healthy Najee Harris? So I think that the red zone offense will get better this season. A crazy statistic last year, actually, is that Steelers wide receivers last year only had 5 total touchdowns, period. 4 of them went to George Pickens. 1 of them went to Chase Claypool. I mean, come on, that's got to improve drastically this year. We can't have a wide receiver core with just 5 receiving touchdowns. Okay, I think Pickens is going to have quite a few, probably in the double digits, I'm hoping. And then Deontay Johnson will probably be around that range as well. I do believe Deontay will have a nice bounce-back season this year. And I think Kenny is going to be much improved in the red zone this year. He just wasn't really comfortable in those condensed areas last year. Just the fact of the matter with Kenny last year, but I'm hoping that this year he gets a little bit more comfortable in those condensed areas, because in the red zone, the windows are even tighter than they normally are on the field. He's going to have to get better in that regard in order for the red zone offense to get better, but I definitely have the optimism to say that it will be much, much better in 2023. Then we got a question from GM Evan Hinders here saying, Canada, I think if Canada don't improve this season, I want Todd Haley to return. Hell freaking no, GM Evan Hinders. No way. Todd Haley, right now, if he were to come in, he would have one of the most regressive, old school type of offenses that there is in the National Football League right now. There's a reason why multiple stops since he left the Pittsburgh Steelers have been complete train wrecks. I mean, just look at the Cleveland Browns offense when he was there. I mean, it was terrible. There's no way around it. He's somebody that completely lives in the past. He has not modernized his offense. And if we're going from Matt Canada to another guy that has not modernized his offense in Todd Haley, I think you just move backwards and you're not really moving forwards. Then you got Jonathan Harvey here. Says he's screwed with Ben's creativity and carried that to Mitch and Kenny's adjustments. So when Ben was here in Pittsburgh, he did have the ability to make audibles and hot routes and all these different things in the offense. So he did have a little bit more creativity than Kenny did, but it wasn't a whole bunch. It wasn't as much as when he was with, say, Bruce Arians, for example. But Mitch and Kenny had nothing last year. They had nothing. It was Matt Canada's offense. You're running what I'm telling you to run, period, point blank, period. And this year it seems to be changing, which is something I'm very optimistic about. Then we got Young Noticeable 25 here, one of the real ones here at Steelers Talk, saying, do you truly believe his end-of-year performance earned him his job back? Personally, I would have fired him. That would have been my decision, okay? The offense was not good even when the team was winning, right? They were still below average, okay? So I would have brought in somebody new, somebody that I knew would have incorporated some of these modern elements to NFL offense, someone from maybe a McVay or a Shanahan tree, a West Coast system is what I really, really would have liked. But I will say this, Matt Canada has made the adjustments, or at least I think he has, to maybe, prove us wrong this year. Prove that last year was kind of just a flash in the pan, really, really bad season. But, he's changed his ways. It's made him realize that he needs to evolve and change his offense. And then who knows, maybe the Steelers will have a really good offense this year. So now we got Zion Peterson again here saying, do you think Canada will get Kenny rolling and running more often? He had some sneaky wheels. Yes, Kenny, he's not an elite runner, but he's definitely a serviceable runner, a plus runner as a quarterback. I don't think you're going to be doing any designed quarterback runs with Kenny. He's just not that gifted as an athlete. If you leave him alone, he can get you some yards. He's crafty in that way, but if you're not running read zone. You're not reading read zone option with Kenny Pickett. That's just the way it is. He's not that dynamic of an athlete. I think that Kenny, he added some weight this year. He might be even a little bit slower than he was last year. So I guess we'll see how Kenny adjusts to the new weight this year. But I think that Kenny's focus this year is definitely going to be improving from within the pocket, because if he does that, he's going to be a franchise quarterback here in Pittsburgh. Then we got Damian Roy coming in here, says needs to open the playbook like Moses open the Red Sea. Yes, sir. I mean, last year they just didn't run a whole lot of plays, right? There wasn't a whole lot of variance in their sets, like I said earlier in the show. Defenses knew what the Steelers were running just based on the formation that they were in. There is no way an NFL offense should be that darn vanilla and basic and old school and all these different things that Canada's offense was last year. And, it sounds to me like the offense has certainly expanded this year. Kenny Pickett and a bunch of other players during OTA said, we're doing a great job installing plays. We're already way ahead of where we were last year. And that's definitely a good sign heading into the 2023 season, in my opinion. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for today's show. I appreciate all the people that submitted their questions for today's Matt Canada discussion. I hope you learned a little bit something about the Steelers offense, maybe a little bit of something about football. And if you made it to the end of today's show and you are a Steelers Talk Real One, type Real One in all caps down there in the comment section to let me know that you made it to the end.